Hi folks, and welcome to this quick look at Stellaris. Half quick look and half review, I guess. The game came out about a week ago, and I've played it extensively. As you can see in the top right, this game is from Paradox Interactive Studio. I simply love their games. If you took a look at my Steam profile, I think I've clocked way over 2,000 hours on Europa Universalis 4 alone, and Crusader Kings 2 is also a very, very good game that I've played quite a bit. And this is the company's first foray into space. And as you know, the 4X space genre is rather well stocked. There are many games out there. The first one, well, one of the first ones was Master of Orion, and Master of Orion 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. I've played that a lot, and I've been looking for a replacement for that game for a long time. A game that came very close to replace Master of Orion 2 was Galactic Civilizations 2. It's one of my favorite games as well. But, you know, when they released Master of Orion 3, that was a flop. After that, there were some others like... let's see, Endless Space, for example. I know I'm forgetting a few, but it's not really important. Now, why should this game interest you? Well, if you ever tried one of Paradox Interactive's games, there's a very high chance that you enjoy them. Or there's also a chance that you found them far too difficult to learn and just forgot about them. Because one of the main problems with their games is that the tutorials are usually lacking. Very lacking. But their games have so much depth that if you keep at them, you will get so much from those games. Usually, when I rate a game, you know, there are always a question of gameplay, replayability, graphics to some extent, and music as well. But one of the most important things that usually doesn't come into the rating is the sort of relationship between price of the game and the number of hours you will get out of them. So a game can be really awesome. Well, not really my type, my style, but like an FPS game. And games nowadays are usually around $60–70, sometimes lower, but around that price point. And you know, some games have 5 hours of gameplay and that's about it. Yeah, that's not worth it in my book, simply because, you know, you're paying roughly $12 an hour of entertainment. It's similar for movies, you know. A movie has to be really good to be worth the price of admission. But a game like Europa Universalis 4, which I've probably spent maybe what, $100 on it and all the DLCs, and I've gotten way over 2,000 hours out of it. That doesn't really cost much an hour, does it? So when a game is fun to play and has a lot of replayability, it's definitely worth the investment. And just for that reason, I would say that Stellaris also is part of that whole thing. I don't know how long I've played that game, but probably around 60 hours plus. So already I'm I it's almost as if I'm making money. I've spent less than $1 an hour, and I know I'm gonna play it a lot more. So yeah, definitely worth the money. This is the type of game that you will be able to play for a long time, and either play it in one long game or several short games. You know, depends on the type of gaming you like to do. So we'll take a look at the gameplay together. Let's take a look at what you can do in a new game, and then I'll load a couple of games just to give you an idea what Galaxy looks like later on. So you have a chance. You can grab a random race if you want to, or create your own. I've created a few here, and of course you have, you know, the usual ones here you can grab. Every race has different advantages and disadvantages, of course. There are 3 types of space travel. Warp travel, which is the equivalent that you would see in Star Trek, for example. You have wormhole traveling, which is similar to, let's say, Mass Effect. And hyperspace, I can't think of... hyperspace might be similar to Star Wars. Hyperspace is basically you travel through sort of interstellar highways. So you can't go everywhere with hyperspace lanes, but you can use them to get somewhere very fast. Anyway, I tend to prefer warp travel since you can go anywhere. It's relatively slow, of course, but you don't really have any limitations. Wormhole travel, well, you have to build wormhole stations. So if you're in a war and the enemy destroys your stations, it can make moving around really difficult. So, you know, they all have their advantages and their drawbacks. So, let's take a look. Let's create a new one. So you have your appearance, of course. You have mammalians, reptilians, aliens, anthropoids, musculoids, and fungoids. I do have a few more options than a regular user would have, since I pre-ordered and got like a sort of, not a collector's edition, but yeah, spent a little bit more money and I got a few perks, but nothing big. So anyway, I don't have all the information, but I think that depending on the type of appearance that you select, it will have some effects, but that's something that I think I remember from one of the developer videos that I watched. However, I can't really give you any information about that. Of course, you have your name, the type of names that will be given to your ships, for example, and your leaders. The traits. This is where the game resembles like other games like Master of Orion. You can select certain traits that will give you bonuses or maluses to your race, and of course some will cost much more than others, like extremely adaptive costs 5, and you start with 2, so you will have to take some problematic ones, give you -1, -1, minus. Is there something -2? I'm not sure. Huh? Nope. So you would have to grab 3 that have -1 just to grab that one with 5. So some are much more interesting than others, And personally, I like intelligent, since it gives plus 10% to the 3 types of research. That's really useful. But sometimes, you know, the ones that can give you more growth are very interesting. Habitability is how much your people can adapt to the planet they live on. And each type of planet has a different ability. I'm going to mess this one up all the time. Habitability, and depending on your home world, the further you go away from that type of world, the lower the habitability. And of course, the lower the habitability, yeah, I'm gonna get it. You will get some happiness malices for your settlers. So yeah, drawbacks again. Anyway, so you choose what you want. Then your ruler, male or female. Depending on the type of appearance you got, you have some choices. No, not many. Maybe they will add some more in the future, but yeah, not a lot. But it doesn't really matter, since most of the gameplay is on the map. You never really look at your people. Your home world. Yep, 7 types of home world. Very similar to other space games. But as I said, the further you go, the further away you go from your home world, or your preferred world, in other words, you'll get malices. So if you start with continental world, if you decide to settle a tropical world or an ocean world, that will be pretty nice for you. Your settlers won't really have any trouble adapting. Of course, you do need to research the type of world that you want to settle. So at the beginning, you can only colonize continental worlds. But once you research ocean worlds, you can also settle there. It won't necessarily be a good thing to settle another planet like that, but hey, it depends. Then you have desert worlds and Arctic worlds. These would be much harsher for a race that would start on the continental world, but it's still doable. And then you have the arid worlds and tundra worlds, and those would give massive malices to your happiness, and not really worth going to those planets unless you absolutely must colonize a world, for example, to push back the border between 2 empires. But normally it's not a good idea. You can always research terraforming later on. Well, if you're lucky, you can get that research early, and sometimes you can get really late. I've seen both happen. Then city appearance, nothing important here. Here is really important. Government and ethics. Ethics. The ethics will determine several things. 2 things that are really important that the ethics will govern is whether or not you can commit genocide, and whether or not you can bombard planets, like do carpet bombing. Carpet bombing is really effective when in war, but it's not appreciated by the rest of the galaxy. Let's just say that way. So if you would like to do carpet bombing, you will want to grab militarist and regime. So one of these 2. Like the orange ones are basically like souped up version of the green ones. So they just give better bonuses or bigger malices depending on what happens. Another one that is important is collectivist. That's one of the things that is really important if you want to do slavery, for example, or if you want to purge populations. In other words, commit genocide. And right now, my current game is like a human race that is militaristic and collectivist, and also materialist. So they get bonuses to research, and they do carpet bombing, and when they grab planets from other races, if there are planets that aren't really suitable for my race, I leave them be as vassals. And if they're living on nice planets for me, they're gone. They all die. So yeah, I'm basically playing like Hitler. So yeah, don't do it in real life. But in the game, it's fine. It's fine. And then you choose the type of government that you want to take. Depending on your ethics, you will get access to different types of government. Let's say you grab these two. Xenophobe. The xenophobe is another one that enables you to purge, if I'm not mistaken. So here you would have. There are always 3 types for the different types of government. You have the democratic ones, the semi-democratic ones, and then you have like the tyrant type of government, so a dictatorship. And they all have different bonuses. So I'm not going to review all of them, but some can be really interesting. So if you are heavy into slavery, then the despotic empire would be awesome for you. But if I usually like the plutocratic oligarchy, since you get energy and minerals. Energy is basically money, and minerals is what you'll use to build everything. So both are very important. After that, empire name, flag, you have several options. Then your starting weapons. These will affect the type of spaceport modules that you can use at the beginning. As you research more things, you will get more options. The FTL method, I've covered that already. Hyperspace, warp, and wormhole. And your ships. So only 6 types. So I don't think that they're, well, at least the look is customizable, but everything else is, since ships use modules. Anyway, let's go back and go random, just to give you an idea. I like to use huge galaxies, but of course these games last forever, literally forever. I think that the first game I played, I must have played almost 40 hours, and I only controlled like 25% of the galaxy, and you need a lot more than that to win. As for the types of galaxies, the elliptical were basically I guess like a football, but it's only the exterior football. Then the spirals with 2 arms or 4 arms. These can be tricky, since sometimes an enemy can have the ability to travel between 2 arms, but you don't have it yet because of your faster than light travel method. One of my friends had that problem because he was using warp, and his warp capabilities were not good enough, so the enemy could come to him, but he could not go to them. That makes waging a war rather difficult. I prefer the ring. It's basically a circle, and it's very big. There's plenty of space to expand, So I prefer that one, but elliptical is fine. Spiral ones are more difficult. Of course, you can decide the number of AI empires, but that is not necessarily the right number, because as you play, empires will rise and fall. Of course, when empires get taken by enemies, they can just disappear, become vassals, and later on be assimilated. But sometimes you will encounter planets that have races that are near faster than light travel, like near the space age. Other times there will be primitives, like during Stone Age. Sometimes the Industrial Age. It depends. So sometimes you can see other empires rise when you least expect it, and you can decide if the AI gets bonuses or not. So advanced AI starts. So the more you have, the more difficult it becomes, of course. And of course, you have the different difficulties. Insane. I haven't tried that yet. I've played on normal so far. Anyway, and you can choose Iron Man mode. Iron Man is always annoying for me, but I think that usually for their games they use the Iron Man mode to give the players achievements. So if you don't play Iron Man, you can't get any achievements. That sucks. Anyway, so you start out on your own system, and you start with one science ship and one construction ship. Science ship first job will be to survey the system. So in other words, it will check every planet, every asteroid, to see if they can produce different resources. And as part of construction ship, well, you can build military stations once you have that research, or stations like mining stations or research stations, depending on the type of resource. Okay, so I'm not going to play with this much. I just want to explain the UI. So here we have the energy. So the energy that you have and what you gain every month. Here are the minerals. As I said, the energy is the equivalent of money, and minerals is what you use to build. So the energy will be needed to for maintenance of different buildings and your fleet, while minerals are used to build them. Then you have the influence. The influence is a resource that you can't really increase that much. It's what you use to hire leaders, to enact edicts on your different planets, for example, to give a boost to population growth, or things like that, or increase happiness. And then you have the three types of research: physics, society, and engineering. And then you have the strategic resources. Those come into play usually a bit later in the game. They will be needed for specific type of buildings. For example, like a special kind of gas, or sometimes you can find animals on a planet, so you can have a zoo, things like that. Here it's the number of planets that you control right now versus the number of planets you can directly control yourself. Once you can go over that number, so in this case it would be 6. So you can go over that number, but the more planets you have over that number, you get penalties. So there's something. Of course, if I just say it like that, it may sound like this is really restrictive, but there is something to just circumvent that. And here, the number of ships that you have, or at least it's not necessarily the number of ships, because bigger ships are worth more than 1 point, compared to the number of ship points that you can have. That number goes higher and higher when you add colonies in spaceports. I think there are some research. Yeah, there are some researches that can improve that number as well. So let's take a look at research. So you have researchers, and each researcher has a different bonus. For example, that one has bonuses when going after researchers that have something to do with computing. So it would be a very good idea to give him a quantum theory to research right away, since he would get a plus 10% bonus to that. This one has a really good bonus, plus 10% research speed, period. That's the best bonus that you can get, and I have 2 of them also. So yeah, the first thing you'll want to research in society is obviously New World's protocol, because then you can build colony ships. That is incredibly important. As for the other ones, well, depends on what you need. Solar panel network is nice, since it's something that you can build at your spaceport to increase your energy by 3. Early on, it's easy to be in the red when it comes to energy, so that's not a bad idea. Physics labs is a research building, not a bad idea. This one, well, helps make your ships better, not a bad idea as well. Anyway, so you choose the one that you prefer depending on your type of gameplay, and you do the same for this, like mining network 2 and more capacity for my mineral storage. That's good. This is also good. Anyway, so you make your choices, whatever. All their grand strategy games from Paradox Interactives are real-time based. However, they have different speeds, and you can pause the action at any time. So you can play as slowly or as fast as you want. That's something I've always loved in their games, because I like to take my time. So usually I play at normal, and if there's nothing happening, I play it fast, and sometimes fastest. But, you know, sometimes you may want to play slow, especially if you don't plan on pausing the game. As like in multiplayer, there's no pausing the game. Well, you can in theory, but it's not nice to other players. So, yeah, I would probably try to play at slow or normal on multiplayer. I've played once on multiplayer, and the first idea that I had about playing multiplayer was to record that to show you the game, but there was so much stuff happening at once that I barely had time to think. I would not have been able to record a video and say anything remotely intelligent while playing. I was too stressed for that. Anyway, so you start out with like this, and as you can see, this is a huge galaxy. So we're just here, and we have a huge galaxy to conquer. Alright, so let's take a look at the different screens. Here you have your government, and it gives you the bonuses that you have. When you have an heir, it will tell you their skills. You have your own skills here. Monthly influences are really good, because that influence is hard to come by. And Corvette build cost minus 20%. That's good at the beginning of the game, since the Corvettes are the only military crafts that you can build at the beginning. Then you have your budget, your policies. Your policies is where you can choose to purge or not to purge. So of course, you purge. Oh, I can't. Okay, I use random, so I'm not a collectivist. Or, yeah, so I can't purge. Well, that sucks. I love purging. Because it's hard to deal with the happiness of vassals when you have several of them. Because it takes influence to really influence them. And you don't have that much to come around, so to spread around. So yeah, not a good idea. Anyway, so yeah, you have different things that you can choose here. Your demographics, of course, when you start out, you only have one race, but you can have you will see all the races of your different vassals there as well, the conquered planets, as well as robots, and robots can become a problem later on. Anyway, and you create vassals here. All right, here you see your empire. You have all your planets, and eventually you have sectors. So remember, well, I was about to say, remember when I said they had a system in place in case you went over that the number of planets that you directly controlled? Those are sectors. Sectors are basically automated parts of your empire, and those will become bigger and bigger as you play, since you have a finite number of planets that you can control directly without any problems. Usually the planets that you want to keep under your direct controls are those under development. Once a planet has been developed, there's no real need for you to keep it under your control, since all you really need to control are two planets: your home world and your best planet to create, the one that has the most minerals to create new ships. So with two good worlds to create ships, you'll be fine. So for the rest, you can focus on worlds that you're building up. Anyway, those sectors have advantages. For example, there are some buildings that are outposts that will require you to pay a monthly cost of influence. So that's bad. But once they are incorporated into a sector, you no longer have to pay that cost. That's really nice. So you can use sectors to lower your maintenance for influence. Also, they use part of the resources that are part of the sector, and part of them will go right to you, and the rest is used to develop the sectors. The AI for sectors, as far as building goes, it seems like there's there's some improvement to be made there. It's not the greatest, but it's not that bad, you know. If you want really bad AI, go play Blood Bowl. Anyway, so you have sectors that are really interesting. You have your leaders here. You have the different governors that you can put on a planet in particular, or you can assign them to a sector. So that can be really nice when you have a good governor and you just assign them to a big sector. They will give bonuses everywhere, so that's great. For the scientists, you will have your 3 scientists that are researching these 3 things. As for the rest, they will be in your science ships and they will explore the galaxy for you. Usually I find it's a very good idea to, when you start a game, to build a second science ship right away and then hire a scientist for it, so that you have 2 ships that explore. Really useful. A second construction ship can be useful, but less so than a science ship. Of course, you can be really unlucky, and if you're surrounded by other empires, the range that you can survey might be limited. I've seen it happen in one of my games. Then you have the admirals. Having at least one admiral is a good idea for your main armada. And then generals are for ground troops. Also, having one general is a good idea. Yeah, if you have one dedicated ground army to attack planets, it's a good idea to have a general. And then in the factions, you won't see anything here for a while. Once you get population that is unhappy, usually after conquering a different race, you know, that other race probably won't like it, and unhappiness will affect how they work, or they might strike. So you will see those factions appear here, and you can decide what to do with them. You have less options to deal with factions here than you would have in other Paradox interactive games. At least the way I see it, you know, the options are not as useful. But hey, maybe that will be developed later on. The ship designer. This here is nice. Of course, you can't change the look of your ship. Maybe that will change in the future, but you can change what is on that ship. So, for example, the weapons, the type of reactors. Here you will find reactors, shields, and armor, if I'm not mistaken. Here it's all the weapons, and here you have different types of like the type of travel, the type of travel, the computer. These things can be improved through research. One thing I can say about research before going to situation log is that one of the main problems with games like Civilization or Galactic Civilization as well is that the tech tree, not three, is known to you right when you start. Let's face it, if there's something illogical in Civilization, is that you know already what kind of research you need to research if you want to get to a certain point on the tech tree. And that's insane. I mean, come on, just put yourself in the place of cavemen. Oh yes, we need to research cartography, so then we can research mathematics and then banking, and so, you know, it makes no sense. So in this game, there's no tech tree. There's a tech pool, and every time you finish researching something, you get a chance to choose from a certain pool of techs. Some may be early techs, like, that don't cost much to research, but some may be more advanced, or sometimes there are rare research opportunities. Those are purple. Hey, purple is my color too. That's awesome. So, that means that there are some researches or some race traits that you can take to have more than 3 choices every time. I think there's a research that can up that to 4, and with the right trait you might be able to get to 5, or maybe even more. I'm not sure, but I know for a fact that you can get at least to 5. And having more choice is definitely a good idea. For example, if you want to get terraforming, there's nothing to ensure that you'll get it early. So the more choices you have, the better the chance you have to get the type of research that you want. So I kind of like that system. I prefer it to a tech tree, since even if you know the different techs, there are no prerequisites. So yeah, you just play along and eventually you'll get it. Sometimes early, sometimes late. Alright, then the situation log is where you get basically your missions and your victory conditions. Here we only have, for now, we only have two types of victory condition: the domination and conquest. So there's no diplomatic option for now. So compared to other space games, that doesn't offer much choice here. So that will probably be much expanded on as they release DLCs. It's the way that they proceed with most of their games anyway. So I'm not worried about that. But for now, it makes games a bit limited. Well, not in scope, because games can take forever. But yeah, it limits your options. So hopefully they can solve that issue eventually. One last thing, let's take a look at our own planet. So here you have the type of world, the habitability. Hey, I'm getting it. Oh, everything that your planet produces, the population and the maximum population, the food that you produce. When it's over 0, then your planet can grow. If it's under 0, it affects your happiness. And this is the size of the planet. So eventually, once you free up all the tiles, you get up to 16 tiles. Here you have the output. Hey. If you have a governor, it'll be here. The edicts are what you can use to give some bonuses to planets. For example, the re-education campaigns is really good when you've just either you have a distant colony, or you've captured another race's planet, because it will lower the divergence of ethics. So when you choose your ethics for your race, all your population has those ethics. But as the game goes on and your population is disseminated to other planets, the further away they are from the center of your empire, the more their ethics will diverge, it will change. And that can cause problems, since let's say that you're pro genocide, and your population in a world a bit far from the center of your empire, well, some of your population loses the collectivist trait. Oops, suddenly they're against purging. So the moment you'll commit genocide on the poor alien race, those people will get pissed, and then problems start, and you might end up with a rebellion on your hands. So it's a good idea to try and keep the ethics divergence as low as possible. When it's under 0%, it's good. Anyway, so then you have the surface. This shows the planet, and as you can see, there are some tiles that are not workable right now. Well, for the home world, you can unlock those by using energy and minerals, but for colonies, you need to research certain stuff, certain tech, in order to be able to unlock the locked tiles. Some are easier, some are harder to unlock. Anyway, as you can see, some tiles do give a bonus and others don't. So here it's a good idea to have a mineral not silo, but a mine, since you already have a bonus. Here would be a great place to to create energy. While here it's more suited for research, while here it's great place to grow food. Anyway, so the thing you'll want to do as you explore is look for worlds that are of the homeworld type or very close to it, and that have as many tiles as possible. The maximum tiles that you can find on a planet is 25, so 5 rows of 5. As for the smallest, that's a good question. I've seen planets with 8 tiles, but there might be some that are even smaller. So yeah, those aren't really useful to colonize. Anyway, then you have your armies. Here you can recruit either defensive or offensive armies. Usually when you start a war, you'll want a pack of 9 or 10 assault armies. So good. Usually that's enough to do all your battles, just one stack. And you can recruit them here. Then you have your spaceport. Here are the modules. For example, when I talked about the module that gave plus 3 energy, that's where you would build it. Here, since we're beginning, there are no options, and it's where you will build your different ships, as well as upgrade your spaceport by your spaceport itself. So once we get the colony research done, colony ship will appear at the end of the list. The same thing for bigger ships, like destroyers is the second type. Then you have the cruisers, the third type, and then the battleships, which are the biggest ships that you can have right now, as far as I know. Unless it's quite possible there are bigger ships that I haven't seen, since I've played a lot, but my games are not that advanced. So who knows? There probably is a bigger type of ship than battleships, but that's something I will leave you to discover. Anyway, so and here there are shortcuts. Here, this for people who have played other games from Paradox Interactives, they are familiar with this. This is where you'll find usually all your armies, your merchants, and things like that. Anyway, so let's load a couple of games. So this is the one I'm playing right now, where I'm playing. Oh, that's a lot of people. That's because I'm at war. So this is what a more or less advanced game looks like. So I'm in contact with pretty much every empire on the map, but I haven't had a chance to interact with them. As you can see, the white here are sectors. So to be in a sector, all the worlds have to be in contact with one another. You know, you can't say, okay, I'm going to put this one in sector 1, and then I'm gonna put this one. Well, yeah, there are several systems in between, so you need to put those in as well. Otherwise, we won't be able to. So right now, I am in the process of clearing these tiles and building this place. So I'm keeping a very simple system to name my planets, like first colony, second colony, third colony, and the first colony is the first system, etc. Makes it really easy for me to know where I have to go when I get a message. And the ones where you can see my well, I guess I could say my flag, which resembles Space Marines. Those are planets that I conquered. Well, I vassalized their empire and then assimilated them, and then killed the population. But of course, what happens when you kill a population? Everyone hates you. So yeah, here you can see all the empires, and you can try to do some diplomacy or trading. But at this point, people despise me. They really, really despise me. So no one wants to have anything to do with me. But at the same time, I'm the biggest empire there is, so they can't do anything to me. So yeah, and here I can see that my influence is already maxed, so that's not a good idea. When you're close to maxing it, it's better to use it. And my minerals are at maximum, and my energy is almost at maximum. Yep, I'm at a point where I'm dominating this place. You know, these are my vassals, these are my vassals, or are they? No, they're a protectorate, which means they are not advanced enough to be my vassals. Vassals, and vassals. So yeah, I control the whole place. And for some reason, these guys declare war on me even though they can't get to me. And I can't get them, which is stupid. Anyway, so, oh yeah, here, get it. You see, I unlocked Arctic worlds, so I was not able to colonize them before that. Now I have the option to do so. Here, yeah. Okay. Aha! Unlock Tomb Worlds. Tomb Worlds are relatively rare, so it's not really a good idea to go after that per particular tech. And here's one of the rare techs in purple. Anyway. So I just wanted to show you what it would look like. So yeah, you have your sectors here, and thankfully I don't have any factions here because I have killed everyone. So there are only humans in my as you can see, it's the Highlander Empire. Why? Because there can be only one. Us. So yeah, only the Highlander Empire will survive this. So let's take a look at an older game, Fungal Bloom Empire. That was the game that I played the longest. As you can see, I'm freaking big, but that means that my sectors are insanely big. I can control less planets than in the other game because of basically it's because of your ethics and the type of government. So some will give you less planets but more sectors, and vice versa. You know, you will have to do trial and error to find out the best possible choice for you. So anyway, so yeah, the difference here, if I'm not mistaken, some people do like me, and well, most people don't, but there are some that do. At least, you know, I haven't been purging people, so that means I do have factions. So as I said, there are some people who don't like me, and usually it's people that I vassalized and then assimilated because they have different ethics than my general population. But they're a minority overall. No, I just have like 69. Nope, 79. I have 79 people who are not happy with my regime. While in the other game, there are 0 people who don't like my regime. Because everyone who didn't like it is dead. Anyway, that's why I wanted to try the game where I purged everyone. Because in this one, you know, the bigger I got, the more difficult dealing with factions became. So yeah. Anyway, as I said, I probably played like nearly 40 hours in that game. And I assume that it would take a good 100 hours more to actually win this game. But then again, that's a huge map, so you might want to choose a smaller one unless you're crazy like me. Anyway, this was the quick look. Well, not really quick. I've probably been talking for half an hour, maybe more. Anyway, so this is what the game looks like. Personally, I would probably give it an 8 right now. There are certain areas of the game, like diplomacy, for example, and victory conditions, that can be improved. But overall, this game offers more than the usual space strategy game. Mainly for one reason, and I can't understand why I didn't think to mention this. But with science ships, you know, usually with the space games, you will explore and that's it. You know, you've explored, now you colonize everywhere. But in this game, your science ships will be useful throughout the whole game. First of all, they can survey the different systems, and they will often find anomalies. Anomalies can give you bonuses of experience. Sometimes you can get free ships with that. I once found a free cruiser, very early game, that I was able to coast through the first few wars thanks to that cruiser. You can find minerals, energy, different things like that, and sometimes you can find unevolved races that you can observe. So that can be really good for your research. Anyway, so yeah, so you have that serving part of the exploration, but of course, as you conquer or vassalize new empires, you will get more and more places to explore. So it's always a good idea to keep at least one science ship around, even during the late game, just in case, because you will probably move around, especially since they can also research battlefield debris. So when you've had a big war, you know, you had your huge fleet encounters a big fleet, well, then you can send a scientist ship afterwards to explore that debris, and usually you will get either just research points. Sometimes you get nothing, but that's rather rare. And sometimes you can, depending on the technology level of your enemy, you can get bonuses to research certain techs, and that can really help. Sometimes you will have some very pricey techs that can be researched in a few months, just because you had several encounters with a race that had that technology, and you research their debris like 3 or 4 times. So suddenly you have 90% of that tech already learned. So it can really help your research. Anyway, I think that's all I can think of mentioning right now. My huge fleet. Oh, I have 2 in that game, that's right. Anyway, I really hope that if you don't try this game, you at least try the other games from Paradox Interactive. They are hard to approach, but they have so much to give. Europa Universalis 4 is probably the easiest to learn, so if you're interested in grand strategy, I would probably encourage you to try that one first. Crusader Kings 2 is also an Empire strategy game, but it's heavily tilted towards politics and character interactions. So like getting married, having children, getting assassinated by said children. There's a lot of fun to be had there, especially since I think that someone released a mod for Game of Thrones for your Crusader Kings 2. That sounds awesome. Anyway, also if you're a military buff, Hearts of Iron is the series from Paradox Interactive that would likely interest you the most. For the industrial age, there's Victoria 2 in this case. Yeah, they have a bunch of games for different eras, different type of gameplays. There's something for everyone. But, as I said, they are hard to approach. They do have a lot to offer. And there are often sales for Paradox Interactive games on Steam or other gaming websites. So just keep your eyes open, because those games can cost a lot if you grab all the DLCs, and often the DLCs are really worth it. But if you wait for like a 50% or 70% sale, oh man, you can get some awesome stuff for a very nice price. So let's see, you could grab most DLCs plus the main game for Europa Universalis 4 for, let's see, probably 50-60 bucks, which is the price of the brand new game, but you get so much content. So I definitely recommend that. As for this game, well, there are no DLCs for now, but you can bet your ass there will be plenty of DLCs released sooner than later. That's how they proceed at Paradox. So this game can only get better. It is already really nice. So as of now, I recommend it. But if you prefer to wait until they develop the gameplay even more with DLCs, it's your money. You decide what you do with it. Anyway, I hope you found this informative. And I know that without my ugly mug to look at, it may have been a bit difficult to stay focused for the whole length of the video just looking at this. But still, I did my best to give you as much information as possible, and hopefully some of you will buy the game and try it out. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with it. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.